rip it in half and give it to the police officer if you're not, prepared to speak for yourself. But as the card says as well, each situation is different, and so when the police come, near you and you're in possession of cannabis, there's a few things that you need to think about. If you have the chance to suppress the smell of cannabis, if you've been smoking it or have some on you, that's not a bad thing to do if you can do it discreetly. For example, driving in a vehicle, you're very vulnerable, whether you're smoking in your vehicle or not. They seem to pick it up pretty quickly. There are some kind of botanical flower sorts of sprays, completely non-toxic.
Isn't that kind of a tip-off, though? They see that's around, and I can smell it a little bit, but it seems flowery too.
It may be a tip-off, but according to the court of law, if you simply have a stick of incense on your dashboard, and the police are like, I think I smell cannabis, and you can just say, no, I got this here, this is what you smell. If you give them probable cause for some other reason than the smell, then they have no reason to proceed further. The police have the right to ask you questions, right? You have the right to remain silent. That's what these things all say, right? Officer, if I'm under arrest or being arrested, please tell me so, or being detained. If I am free to go, please tell me so. If I'm not free to go, please tell me why. I wish to exercise all my legal rights, including my right to silence and my right to speak to a lawyer before saying anything. I do not consent to be searched. I wish to be released without delay. Please do not ask me any questions, because I will not willingly talk to you until I speak to a lawyer. Now, it's good to know these rights. Sometimes, though, unfortunately, exercising these rights can aggravate the police in such a way that they decide, almost in the back of their head, well, hell, I'm not going to charge this person, but I'm going to make their life living hell. And as I said earlier, if no charges are entered into court, it's really hard to argue that they've taken something from you or that they've, done something wrong, right? It's very rare that one of us will go and call the police after an incident with the police, right? And especially like if they've taken your pot and not charged you or something, like, they're very good at intimidating people and getting you to cough up information that you don't need to. And so, really, if you're not in a vehicle and they ask you, where the smell is coming from, unless they actually saw you with the baggie out or smoking a joint or whatever, you can deny having anything. You're like, no, why would you ask me that? The best thing to do, honestly, when a police officer asks you a question is ask them a question just right back.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think that? Or, you just deflect it, right? And just keep turning it around on them. If you let them control the situation, they're going to just put you in a corner and you're going to feel obligated to admit to what you have, because they like playing the old, oh, I'm not going to charge you if you tell me, but if you don't, I know you got it, so we're going to take you down to the station or whatever. They don't want to take people down to the station, especially if it's just over a bag of pot. It's really a big headache for them. They're trying to intimidate people, find out what's going on, what they have and who they are. They're so it's something where only in extraordinary circumstances should you admit that you have anything on you. Some of the few times that I've admitted it is when I've sort of been the sacrificial lamb, where I've known some friends with me have got like way more pot or maybe some other kinds of drugs, and it's like, well, we really don't want to push it today, so all of my bag of pot, and this is what we were just smoking, that's why you smell it, leave the rest of us alone. That has worked for me. Actually, I have one funny story where at a Canada Day they did that at Beacon Hill Park, and the police officer turned around and emptied the bag out in a very clean spot in the duck pond, so and gave the baggie back to me. And so right after that, I went over to the pond and I scooped it up and put it in the bag, and I had the same bag of pot that I had given to the police officer. It was pretty funny. So sometimes cooperating with them can be the best outcome. Each situation, though, is just so different. But you need to be really careful not to say too much. It says you have the right to remain silent, and certainly, in most cases, you should be as you know, quiet and not reveal any information about what you're doing at all. You know, it is something where you need to be careful. Again, in particular, as it says here on the other side, if you're in a bar, cinema, or driving a car, then the police do have the right to ask you a whole bunch of questions about what you're doing, and essentially, I think in a bar, I'm not sure if they have the right to search people for being in bars. I don't think so. No. But yeah, so when I saw this here, I wasn't even sure. So,
I found out a little bit more about why that is the bar cinema special allowance. That's because during Prohibition, lots of the gangsters used to go to bar or to movies because it was one air-conditioned place. So it's just like an old rule that's still on the books.
wow.
But they can just ask you more questions. And you have to give them your name and phone number. You don't have to tell them anything if you're not driving a car.
Yeah, well, you got to give them your name, birth date, and address. But you also have the right to ask them for their police name and badge. Although, again, you need to be careful because often when you do that, they get really upset. And some of them can be more agitated than others. So now, yeah, so you know, each situation is a little bit different, to be sure. If you do end up being charged with possession or trafficking, and you know, there's not that many options that you have for court. However, many people do prefer to plead not guilty. I forgot to bring it today. I have this wonderful little book from Ontario that says plead not guilty. Pearson just passed away, but my friend Justin, who's the co-author, still kicking. In Ontario, there's this whole kind of movement, Cola or something, I think. Anyway, they've got a whole group of people that have been arguing that the possession laws are unconstitutional because the medical marijuana access regulations are. And it's been interesting to see how some case law, like the one Map showed in Ontario, has broken down the law in that region more than here, but it's not gone to a court of appeal, in part because when the charges get dropped at the lower levels of court, they don't appeal them so that the Court of Appeal in Ontario can make a decision.